We are Cactus Wrestling. Make sure you hit that like button and subscribe so you don't miss out on future videos.
Well, the news is out there. Gable Steveson is coming back to college wrestling, but will
Whoa.
it be next year or maybe after the Olympics? That much we don't really know. All he said at this point is that he has 1 year left, that he plans on using it, but when is the next question. So we're here to talk about Gable Steveson in the return. We got to see him at Final X, and he looked as good as ever, like he hadn't even taken any time off. So there's no surprises there. But coming back to the college wrestling scene, was one that a lot of people didn't necessarily see coming, especially with his commitment with the WWE. So, what do you
Yeah.
guys think? Is Gable coming back to Minnesota?
When I first heard the news, my instant thought was, oh, that's great news for Minnesota. But then I was like, wait a minute. He might not actually go back there. Which I mean would be unfortunate for Minnesota because he always talks about how Minnesota is kind of like his home type place. Like he always liked being at Minnesota and kind of being part of the history at Minnesota. So part of me thinks it's not out of the question, but I don't think it's the most likely spot that he ends up landing.
So many things to say about this. So one, Gable's kind of been Minnesota his whole life. I mean, he wrestled for Apple Valley, which is a Minnesota high school. Um, Two, he really did kind of put Minnesota back on the map.
Yeah.
That they were kind of fading into obscurity, and here comes Gable
Jay
Steveson.
Robinson left. Yeah.
Yeah, ever since J Rob left, and then here comes Gable as the literal knight in shining armor. His name alone gets guys to, want to commit to that program. Even when he wasn't there anymore and he had moved on this past year, guys were still committing because he would dabble in the practice room for WWE stuff. He would make appearances.
Yeah,
That's how much
he would say that he would still go out
yeah,
there.
that's how much star power this guy has. Is that a high school sophomore is like, oh my gosh, like Gable Steveson might be there. I have to sign up. Like I'm committing to Minnesota over XYZ program.
Right.
That's huge. Next is the whole WWE thing. We've seen a ton of guys out there. AJ Ferrari, Gable Steveson, Mason Paris as three, just to name a few, that have WWE contracts. I mean, we even just see it now with women's wrestling. Tamara Mensah Stock
Yeah.
gave up her freestyle career to go to WWE. I'm not a WWE expert, but I know that they make good money. I know the company brings in a lot. I know they have a very lucrative contract for their wrestlers and for their, whole shtick that they do. So they're making great money. But I do know that for every guy they sign, 30 go unsigned.
Yeah.
A lot of people questioned why Gable was even coming back to folk style and freestyle wrestling in the first place. And then murmurs started coming around that, oh, maybe he's not doing so well with the WWE route. And
Could be.
that could definitely be it. A few people talked about his poor performance on the mic. So anyone that's ever watched old Raw, SmackDown, TNT, all those whatever programs that they had, knows that you have to do it all. You have to be able to have a ring presence. Got to obviously perform as a wrestler. You have to be liked or well hated enough that people are going to tune in to see you either way. You have to have a presence on the microphone. And I think Gable, for all his talent, was lacking a few of these qualities, and he couldn't quite make them up like he did as a wrestler.
I mean, interesting point to or counter to that is at Final X, he really made a way. He got the crowd going and hyped them up so that he could do his little flip after he won.
Exactly.
So I don't know if that was him practicing for WWE or if that's something he learned or along the way or something. But he was working the crowd at Final X.
So that's what I was going to get to. Even with the U.S. Open, when he won in the semis over Mason Paris, and he was like, oh, getting them hyped up. And then he's like, got to come back tomorrow kind of thing.
Yeah.
And then he did the next day. Those were skills that they said he had to develop with the WWE. So maybe, in my mind, I'm saying, okay, this is the literal testing ground to see, have I gotten better at the skills that WWE needed me to get better in order to get these multi-million-dollar contracts.
Right.
So he's using it as, hey, what's the best beta tester in the world? Oh, a real wrestling crowd.
Well,
Yeah.
that's funny because I don't necessarily think there's a lot of crossover between a like folk style wrestling, freestyle wrestling, and professional wrestling. Like I'll turn it on every once in a while, but I don't follow it by any means. But there is something very sensational about wanting to see this guy do that flip.
Yeah.
I don't know what it is.
Yeah, everyone
he
wants to see the
definitely,
big guy.
yeah, I mean, he's just an athletic freak. So it is definitely exciting seeing that presence live and in person. And maybe he's thinking, oh, I have one more year to do this. Let me cement my legacy. If this WWE thing doesn't turn around the way that he was expecting, and maybe he starts coaching somewhere if that's the case.
The other thing I'm thinking about too is NIL, and we're not affiliated with any schools, so we can kind of say that like it is. The NCAA bars coaches from paying guys to wrestle there.
Yeah.
We know that to be true. However, they don't technically bar boosters to pay them through the NIL. Whether anyone wants to admit it or not, or say it out loud, these guys are being paid by teams to go wrestle for that team. Pretty simple.
Yeah.
Gable's value is worth more this coming season, 2023, 2024, than 2024, 2025. Why? It affects the team race when you have guys like Greg Kirkfleet, Anthony Cassiope, Wyatt Hendrickson, Seth Neville's, AJ Neville's, who's now transferred, Colton Schultz. I mean, those are just 5 top guys, to name a few. Now you add Gable Steveson to that mix, and you say, my goodness, here's a guy that can easily navigate that field and come out on top.
Yeah.
Versus maybe next year, when it's not as deep as a field, what's worth more to a team? Being able to knock off a lot of high quality competition and win the weight class, or simply just win the weight class? So I could see them offering him a big NIL deal for this coming season.
What's also funny is that I think didn't Mikey Caliendo and Jared Frenick weren't they being offered like a 6-figure NIL contract or something? And these are guys
Really?
that are like one-time All-Americans from Iowa.
I mean,
So
That's insane.
imagine
What?
what Iowa is capable of offering Gable Steveson.
How are they offering that much?
if you
That's
believe some of the
bonkers.
rumors, and obviously, people say there's one side, there's the other side, and somewhere in the middle is the truth. People have said for a lot of these guys, Iowa is offering huge, comical cartoon bags of money. I've heard 6-figure deals that they offered to Nagao and he turned it down. Truex and he turned it down. Messenbrink and he turned it down. And now they got Franick and Caliendo for these huge potential deals of 6 figures. And just like Jack said, these are guys that haven't won out, that are, short-term eligibility left, that have not been national champions. You're coming in with Gable, a guy that's probably more favored than anybody else to win a national title.
Yeah.
Schools will pay hand over fist cash for him.
The only way I think Gable would lose is if he goes to Iowa. Then he'd get upset by someone. They would he'd find a way to lose in an Iowa single.
But it brings up the question now: does Gable return to Minnesota?
Yeah. I originally, like I said earlier, I originally thought definitely was going to be back in Minnesota, but then it's like, actually, he might not. He might be like, all right, what team could I help go to a national title with? Because, I don't think he'll end up at Penn State just because I don't think Penn State's going to care if they get him or not.
No, I don't think so either.
So I don't think he'd end up there. But I think almost any other school he could end up finding his way.
I feel like though if he was thinking about that, maybe he wouldn't have signed with Minnesota right out of high school. Though I know he's from that state, but all the top guys who really care about team championships seem to be going to Penn State or Iowa. Minnesota's never really been like a title contender threat. So
So,
I think he's coming back to Minnesota, and I don't think there's really
you don't
any.
think he's going to go to like Ohio State or Iowa State?
No, I think he's going to be loyal. I think he's from there. It makes sense for him to go there. I think they'll do right by him, and it'll really cement him as like the greatest Minnesota wrestler of all time potentially. And that's coming from I mean that school has a lot of historic.
You got Cole Conrad and you got Tony Nelson.
Yeah.
At heavyweight there.
Oh gosh, what is his other? Who is the UFC
Oh
champion?
yeah, Brock Lesnar.
Brock Lesnar.
Yep. So being the face of Minnesota heavyweights, that's saying a lot. So I think he's coming back to Minnesota.
I'm trying to find someone somewhere. I came across it. Mentioned that Gable didn't just want to win a national title; he wanted to win a team title.
Yeah, that's why. Yeah, that's what I was just saying. Like maybe he would go to like Iowa State could use a heavyweight.
Yeah, honestly,
And they would do really well with having him injected into the lineup.
Younger Bastida is going up to heavyweight.
Oh, that's right. That's
but
right.
I think Gabe would still be
Yeah, I don't think.
I don't like that though. That like these guys who they have these plans, and then these superstar freaks come out of retirement, so to speak, and just
or a big name transfer comes in. Like you're thinking, oh, this is my year. So and so graduated. I'm getting the varsity spot now, and so and so just transferred. Great, I'm still bench.
Like there's 86 schools that you can go to. Like I'd love to see Gable Steveson just go to Sacred Heart or someone. Just
Gable Steveson shows up in the Sacred Heart room would be bananas, dude.
This is the only national champion in Sacred Heart history.
Bold take. Gable Steveson goes where the CKLV money go. The Cliff Keen money goes. Michigan.
That's true.
So Michigan, what do we know?
They just got Lucas Davison.
Yeah, they just got Lucas. I mean,
Michigan was depleted completely. Got a bunch of good transfers. Have a lot of money. Recent practice partner that he's familiar with in Mason Paris. I think there's a possibility for Gable Steveson to Michigan. Am I saying it's up there? No. I still think that he's going to take all these NIL deals into mind and then just, throw them in the wind anyway and still go to Minnesota. Just because Gable kind of does what he wants to do. But I think he'll probably come back.
Nebraska.
Yeah. Oh, actually, that wouldn't be crazy.
Oklahoma State, maybe.
I don't think Oklahoma State's ready for someone to win a national title.
Binghamton.
Yeah, let me reach out to Kyle Borshoff, see if they've gotten Gable on the phone.
Yeah, you talked to Gable lately?
Yeah, have you talked to Gable lately?
I heard he's coming back.
Corey Day doesn't like that.
Are you in on that?
So do you think he returns this coming season, or do you think he waits a little bit until maybe after the 2024 Olympics?
I think he wants to win a national title and an Olympic title in the same year.
That's going to get the most buzz.
And especially if he can then be on the team that wins the national title. I mean, the only way he could do that is if he's Penn State or a team that knocks off Penn State. But
it's tough to knock. Penn State, just by the points, is going to be tough to knock off next year. Yeah. They're so favored already. Yeah, but if Gable can do the triple crown of national title, individual, team title, Olympic title, and then go to WWE over here and be like, hey, look what I just did.
Train of hype following him.
And carry it with the skills he's now developed a little bit better in the WWE, have a great, huge debut, be the next kind of Kurt Angle character of I was an Olympic gold medalist. I mean, how many heavyweights in Team USA, or how many even recent freestyle wrestlers do we have that have 2 Olympic gold medals?
No, I can't. Adeline Gray doesn't have any, and she's got 6 or 7 world titles.
I think Burroughs has 1. I'll pull it up. He might.
Yeah. Burroughs has 1 Olympic gold, and then the rest are world titles
because he lost in Rio.
Yep.
Maybe David Taylor. if he
No.
wins next year.
Nope. And Kyle
If Taylor-
Snyder doesn't
If
either.
Taylor wins next year, he would, I think, would be two
Yeah,
for him.
but and Kyle Snyder, he won it at 20, but did not win it at 24. Right?
Let's see.
Or did he
yeah,
not?
No, he's only a one
he
time.
He won 1 year because of I was gonna say Yazda.
Yeah, he won in 2016, but he didn't win in 2021.
Right.
So if he wins in 2024, him and David Taylor will be the only two-time Olympic gold medalists that I can think of. That would be huge for him to carry that momentum into WWE.
Yeah.
But just like
John,
Jack said,
John Smith's a 2-time Olympic champ, but that's
50
30 years
now.
ago.
Yeah. But just like Jack said, like, I don't really follow WWE. I also don't think they follow wrestling per se. They'd be like, oh man, like Gable Steveson, you mean the 3-time national champion from Minnesota?
Yeah, no.
What a great match he had against Mason Paris. Oh, do you remember that? And the guys be like, dude, like, I just want to see how you hit with a chair. Like, I don't give a shit.
Yeah, no. I mean, they might be hyped that he's like, oh, this guy's like a national champion, but like, other than that, I don't think they're gonna.
They could maybe make a persona about it, like with him like wearing the U.S. flag or something.
That's
like
what they did with
Olympian.
Kurt Angle. You know, that was Kurt Angle's huge shtick, was that he was like the all-American kind of thing, was that he would come with wearing the gold medal, he would drink a glass of milk, he was wearing a wrestling singlet, and
an American flag, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So they would do that. I mean, they could probably do that with Gable, but Kurt Angle played like, I mean, this is dating myself a little bit back to old WWF days. Kurt Angle played like this kind of babyface character that was like an idiot. Where I think Gable's too proud to be like, oh yeah, I'm gonna be like the classic dumb guy.
Right.
I think that he has a very tough time because he's this sleeve tattooed, back flipping 300-pound man that has dominated the Olympics and national circuit in America. And you're gonna say, oh, like, how do we make this guy look, goofy? Where does he fit in as far as his character?
I don't think he wants to be goofy.
Well, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
But WWE already has all these character shticks where it's like, I'm the big bad tough guy.
Right.
And where do they fit in another 6'3", 285-pound guy into WWE has that?
But he's got a back flip.
He does have a back flip. That's a good point.
Well,
I retract my statement.
Where do you think Gable's going to land? Is he coming back next year? Drop it in the comments down below. I think he's coming back in Minnesota, but I think he's also going to.
I think he's got some other options that would be pretty good, but yeah.
Yeah, drop it in the comments down below.
Gable's going D3. You heard it here first.
He's going to Castleton.
Castleton, baby.
Castleton.
Thanks for watching. We are Cactus Wrestling, and we'll see you next time on our next video.